Welcome to the Christchurch Fox Chapel podcast. Well, it's the fastest growing, conservative, evangelical, charismatic,
joyful
podcast in the entire Fox Chapel area. Joyful, Ben.
Joyful. It's a joyful scene today. There's a revival going on. Revival.
I love the timing of this. Isn't it cool? Like, so, we planned this series about 5 years ago, and
I remember you coming in giddy like a child and being like, "Oh, we're gonna get to the end with the passage where they celebrate Passover on Palm Sunday."
I know,
and
isn't that great?
Because it's great because Jesus came into Jerusalem. Palm Sunday is the week leading up to the Passover. So
the timing is great. It's really cool. The Passover in Ezra just coincides with this year.
And then you have this theme of the temple. Like they're celebrating the Passover, which is all about God taking his people out into the wilderness to establish the temple, really. His presence, heaven and earth reuniting.
Interesting. It's the opposite. So it's the opposite direction. The original Passover is Passover and then tabernacle. And now we've gone tabernacle, Passover.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Is that a chiasm, Ben?
And then it's, no, because it's then leading up to the true tabernacle celebrating the Passover and being the Passover lamb.
It's great. Is that meta?
30. No,
okay.
It's not. I need to think on that a little bit. But it's
something we've seen several times, isn't it? In this letter, there are what we would call typologies. There are many things that really ultimately find their fulfillment in Christ. And Passover temple, these are two huge Jesus things.
So we've kind of talked about the temple. At least the whole book has been about this struggle to reestablish the temple, to rebuild the second temple. And God has been sovereignly working and bringing that about. Yeah. Like it says in the very end of our passage, they're joyful. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the Lord had made them joyful and had turned the heart of the king of Assyria to them. It's a strange way of putting it, the king of Assyria, but he's referring to the king of Persia, but maintaining this sense of continuity, because the king of Assyria is the king. Assyria is the nation that had always terrorized them.
Oh, okay. So it's like a stand-in for all the bad guys.
God turned the heart of the bad guys to them so that they aided them in the work of the house of God. So the temple is reestablished because God did a thing entirely.
He's faithful to his own and sovereign over his enemies. It's that two things, and therefore revival's on the way. It's that kind of theme all over again, isn't it?
And last week you talked about the temple finished and dedicated.
I mean, it's funny enough, that's about the only thing I didn't talk about. But yes, that's right.
You talked about it. It was there, I thought.
Barely. I think I got so excited by the 10 points that were in the passage that I didn't actually really talk about the main thing very much.
It was like a Mark Driscoll. It was like the first 2/3 of a Mark Driscoll sermon before he yells at everybody and denigrates women.
Without the spiritual abuse,
you have all these signs.
So you mean
that
he'd be great if he just
cut it off and
if he just preached for 5 minutes.
Wouldn't every preacher be great if they just got down before they warmed to their theme?
Yeah, if they just calmed down and stopped early.
Actually, that's one of the things I love about your preaching is that there's like a moment where you're like a lot of preachers would start to warm to their theme, and you'd get a lot of, I don't know, random exclamations.
I just stop.
And you just stop. And it always leaves me like kind of like, oh, it's over. But like that's good because everything up to there is like it's thought out. And then, but when you get to like, you're like, you're not worried about like circling for the perfect landing. You're just like, all right, we've gotten it out there.
It's like when a rock band doesn't know how to finish its song, and so they just do a fade out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's totally that. Yeah, and I think that's Don't warm to your theme, preachers. I'm preaching to myself because I fear that I will easily warm to my theme on this passage.
I really like this passage. When we were planning it out, I thought that's a really good one. Ezra has been an interesting experience for us because it's not a book either of us know very well. It's not a book that many in the congregation know all that well.
No.
And some of the passages at first kind of glance, they don't look very easy to talk about. And then you get something like this, Passover, and that's much more familiar to us.
Yeah. And I think the Passover theme, it's very significant. So Solomon, well, maybe we should, let me just read the verse 19.
All right.
On the 14th day of the first month, that's late April, the returned exiles kept the Passover. And so Passover, there's instructions to keep it in the book of Exodus.
It's interesting that they're still called the returned exiles.
Yeah, I thought that was
isn't it? That's still a label that applies to them.
Yeah, they're
because the experience of return is so profound, and exile so profound that they're now called that. They're not called the people of God or the people of the promised land or whatever. They're called the returned exiles. That's fascinating.
They're still the remnant.
And is this the first Passover that they've had then for quite a long time?
That's one thing I was wondering. I think that the text is signifying that this is just the first Passover since the temple has been completed.
Oh, okay.
Solomon's temple the first temple was completed at a different time of year. And so there's no note about the celebration of Passover with the dedication of that temple.
Of the first temple.
But this one was completed
in time for Passover.
Yeah, in time for it. So then,
and maybe that's a more significant. It's a significant kind of marker for them because this return from exile is so similar to the escape from Egypt.
They parallel. Yeah,
right.
Maybe it is a chiasm.
I'm just saying.
A way. Oh, everything is a chiasm. Once you see it everywhere. Okay, so they return from and they keep the Passover, and it seems like there's really three layers going on in this text. You have this current Passover that I really want to focus in on, but also like the context of the original Passover, God's people being brought out of Egypt.
So the one before this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the one under Moses. And really the establishment, the first Passover is sort of a key step along the way to the establishment in the wilderness of the tabernacle, God's presence, which itself is a restoration of the original temple, which is the creation, the Garden of Eden in Genesis 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So God's presence is back, and Israel here is returning to their vocation to be the intersection of heaven and earth. And it's working. It seems to be. So you want to read verse 20 on?
Yeah, and tell me when to stop. For the priests and the Levites had purified themselves together. All of them were clean. So they slaughtered the Passover lamb for all the returned exiles, for their fellow priests and for themselves.
Yeah, wait. So I'm confused on this. Okay. I actually have a question.
For yourself?
For you, maybe, and for all of us.
I've not prepared.
Oh, okay. Well, don't worry. I assure you, my preparation has been minimal.
That's reassuring.
So they purified themselves together. Were they not? Pure. Was there something in the land that was making them particularly unclean at this time?
Well, I think you always have to purify yourself, don't you?
Yeah. Another thing I found strange, the original prescription is for the head of each household to slaughter the Passover lamb.
Yes.
But one commentator I read said that they basically, by this time, they sort of had the Levites do it most of the time, or the priests and the Levites slaughter them. So it looks like there's one lamb being slaughtered for everybody.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. I think that's. I'm not sure what's going on there exactly, but it's a very holy thing. There's all of the purity of the original Passover is amped up.
Your mate Ian Duguid, with both Ian and Duguid spelt oddly because he's Scottish.
Duguid,
Ian Duguid. Some ambiguity exists in Ezra 6 as to whether both priests and Levites or the Levites alone sacrifice the Passover. ESV translation implies that some priests and Levites are involved in the sacrifice on behalf of the wider community and for other priests and for themselves. In support, it could be noted that reconsecrated priests and Levites played an important role in the Passover celebration during Hezekiah's restoration. So there's another little bit in history, right? So Hezekiah is a king toward the end, the twilight of Judah. He's the one that is sick and he's restored. Isaiah heals him. And then he shows off all of the sacred vessels to envoys from Babylon. And God says to him, this was a dumb thing to do. This kingdom is going to be torn away from you. And Hezekiah repents and God says, all right, I'll delay.
So he's
the last good king of Israel.
There's a mini revival under Hezekiah, but his ego, his arrogance limits it.
Yeah, but he's a good king. He's a good king and he does things right. He atones or repents when he's done something wrong. He does some dumb stuff, but he's recorded and remembered as a good king because he loved God. And I think perhaps you would say that the Passover under Hezekiah was probably, you're getting to the very twilight of Judah before exile at this point. So maybe that would be a memorable one or a notable one. So it looks like under Hezekiah, there was a bit more of giving over this stuff ceremonially to the people in charge rather than the household stuff, perhaps.
Yeah,
under him.
Interesting.
We got Josiah, don't we?
He was a good king.
He was a good king as well. Actually, Duguid goes on to talk about him. He says, during Josiah's reforms, the Levites took sole responsibility for the Passover sacrifice. So and even to the point where it became an exclusive Levitical work. So I wonder if by Josiah's time, maybe the people were just so sketchy generally that this could only be done by the Levites.
You couldn't entrust it to
the normal people,
to the heads of households, because there was just no discipleship.
We've got a system in decay, haven't we? We've got Judah really in decay. It's becoming less holy.
Yeah.
So maybe you go from Hezekiah to Josiah, and that really is the last gasp. And you maybe look at this and you think, okay, well, they've had to professionalize this work a bit.
So what do we see? What do we say now of them? They've returned. Are you saying, are they basically taking up the strictest interpretation of how to celebrate the Passover? Like they're doing it by the book?
It looks like it. I mean, they're being very careful. We saw that in the passage before, that they put everybody in their divisions. So doing it carefully seems important. Or is it this kind of renewal period or revival period looks a bit more like the original tabernacle, the cloth one, the skin one?
Yeah.
Where work really was very exclusively regulated?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could be. One thing, though, is that looking at verse 21, they seem to have gone back to the letter of the law, but they haven't missed out on the spirit of the law or the heart of it, because it says it was eaten by the people of Israel who had returned from exile.
So they're all doing it.
And also by everyone who had joined them and separated himself from the uncleanness of the peoples of the land to worship the Lord, the God of Israel.
So this is...
I love that verse.
This is what? Other remnant people?
This is the debated thing. There's three interpretations that I've heard. The first is that more people, more Jews came from Babylon and joined them.
Okay.
That doesn't seem to jive with what's being said, really, because it calls it peoples of the land is always used of Samaritans. The other possibility is that this is some of the old tribes of the northern people from the northern tribes.
The pipe wrench people.
The pipe wrench, those who had been dragged off or being rejoined.
Yes, when I say that we don't know what happened to them, what we mean is we don't know the actual official whole tribes have disappeared. It doesn't mean to say that individuals never appeared again.
I mean, I think you would have to assume that there are lots of people who remained living where they were, but they sort of ceased to be God's people.
Some people in the Judean exile, for example, we know fled to Egypt to avoid exile in Babylon, they fled to Egypt.
Yeah.
Which is always viewed in Scripture as a very negative thing. To go back to Egypt is to embrace slavery, is to embrace paganism, to reject God. Going back to Egypt is, whether in heart or in physical form, is always thought of as a bad move.
So these are people whose ancestors may have left the Lord, but now you have the descendants coming back. So that's the second possibility, and I think that's definitely there must be some of that in store. But peoples of the land, that's the Samaritans. That's the people who were their enemies.
And this is your hodgepodge characters who were resettled from other parts of the Assyrian Empire, and then were semi-schooled by an actual Jewish priest into the ways of Yahweh, which they syncretized and mingled and mixed with the gods of their own old lands.
So they've had a syncretized version of worship of the God of Israel.
Right.
But what happens now is that they separate themselves from the uncleanness. Basically, they go from syncretized half followers to wholehearted, sanctified, set apart followers.
Not by genetics.
No.
But by evangelism.
Yeah. And I just think that this is the image of what Israel was supposed to do from the very start. The
promise was to Abraham, I'll bless you.
Yeah.
And I'll give you descendants. They'll be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the beach. The idea was that Judaism would spread.
So that you will be a blessing.
Yes.
Yeah. And ultimately, your families, the line of Abraham goes outward and brings others in.
Rule and subdue the whole earth. Expand the borders of the garden. Make Eden bigger.
Yeah. But
great stuff.
So I think it's cool that there's this bringing in of the outsider. And at the same time, the outsider is forced to make it. There's a clear line. Like, you can't sort of be like, oh yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm not going to change anything about my life. I'm not going to make any sacrifices. I'm not going to separate myself from the uncleanness around me. But I'll come and eat Passover with you. No, they had to separate themselves from the pagan practices that were happening and come and join the people of God.
Right.
And so I just think it's that's what the church is supposed to do.
It's a wonderful glimpse ahead, isn't it, to the mandate that Jesus gives?
Yeah.
To go out into all the nations and baptize.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful glimpse ahead to how the gospel will reverberate around the world.
And it's a feast. Yeah. People are being invited to sit at table and share table fellowship.
I mean, we've only just done with all these bulls. There's a lot of food going on. It's fascinating how much food there is here, right? They had because we just had, what was it? 100. Well, I've got it written here. It was verse 17. 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 lambs.
Did I tell you that your son sent me a text message in the middle of your sermon about he copied a chat, or he copied from Grok to total out how much meat this was.
For real?
And the live, he didn't share this with you?
What a legend. Well done.
The grand total estimated live weight was around 301,000 pounds.
That's what I was saying.
It's 150 cars worth of meat. 150 tons.
And no refrigeration.
So that was, the dedication at least was a major feast. And we've got to imagine that the Passover is a major feast as well. And the people the land are being brought in for this. So these people are partying. And maybe that's something to learn for us. When you experience deliverance, throw a party, man.
Yes, it's very significant. And I guess there's always culture, right? So in many African cultures in church, you get this abundance. In many British cultures, you get the absolute opposite. So many churches in England are known for the kind of parsimonious offerings at coffee hour, the idiomatic old lady drying tea bags on a clothesline and reusing them next week.
Yeah.
And there's something beautifully abundant. I think the American church does abundance well. You know, when I moved here, I was just kind of, you know, really thrilled to see people didn't have to be told to party, right? They understood. There's never been a kind of potluck here where we've run out of food, ever.
Is that a British thing? Like,
what, to run out of food at a potluck?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's called a bring and share meal, but it amounts to the same thing.
Oh, it's interesting because it's the most like, it's a disaster if you run out of food at a potluck here.
Yeah,
right?
and it was considered that in certainly Jesus' time as well, like the wedding at Cana. The whole embarrassment is they've run out of wine. Yeah. So abundance is symbolic of hospitality. It's symbolic of plenty. Yeah. To have this dedication of the temple and to run out of food would be terrible. I don't think that's their problem here.
No, I think they're having a big party.
And I can't help feeling, you know, like when it's time for the Passover lamb, people are like, okay,
all right,
we can do it.
I mean, yeah, considering these are people who like have lived off of like barley for the rest of the year.
Oh yeah.
Like their
stomachs were touching their backs for the last 70 years. And
it's not like Sam's Club where you go to Costco or Aldi and get a rack of ribs for like $10. It doesn't work that way.
The planning is something we've not really talked about. But you know, to get this amount of food is a major administrative challenge. Now we do know that King Darius had told Tattenai and Shethar-bozenai and his associates to provide some of this food. What's fascinating to me anyway, is that Darius is explicit to Tattenai and Shethar-bozenai about what they're to have, right? They're to have bulls and rams and lambs, right? But he doesn't say anything about goats, and he doesn't say anything about the Passover lamb. So it seems to me, reading this, that the people of God have had to provide their own goats for the sin offering of their leadership, 12, and their own Passover lamb.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it looks like that's something that's been on them. Yeah. And not so long ago, even one lamb would have been an unthinkable waste.
Yeah.
So amazing.
And it's
abundant.
It is abundant, and with that abundance, there's joy. They kept the feast of unleavened bread, which is what accompanies the Passover. Is it after Passover or before?
Unleavened bread?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've never been entirely sure about that.
Is it Passover and then unleavened bread starts? Does Passover start?
I want to say that's right.
I think Passover is like the opening day and of the week of unleavened bread. And
Jim Edwards can fact check us on this.
I think it's 8 days. It's one day of that and 7 days of the next thing.
I just had to get a shout out in for him. Yeah. Oh, also shout out to Diana Yankees. She did a deep dive into whether it's Darius or Darius, as Tom Holland says.
Yes, I noticed that on the Rest is History podcast. And other podcasts are available.
Yeah.
That
and apparently it's neither. Modern Persians would say Daryush.
Okay.
So who knows how they said it, but I like to say Darius because it makes me sound like posh, like he is. So I'll just go with that.
I just learned Darius, and
I did too. Yeah.
That's what VeggieTales says.
That's what VeggieTales says. So they keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread 7 days with, here's that word that you cited last week again.
No, it's not a different word though.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It is. This is Hebrew.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what it signifies, but...
Well, we're back into back into our own language. So that's
starting at verse 19, right?
I don't know. Is that right? Does verse 19 begin Hebrew language again?
You know, I've not gotten into...
You've not gone that deep?
I've not gone that deep yet. I'm going to see.
Well, I do know that 14th is Hebrew.
It looks like...
Oh, and book is Aramaic. So yes, I think you're correct, Ben. I think verse 19 is... Yes. So the passage I just preached, as is written in the book of Moses, that's all Aramaic. On the 14th day of the first month, which is the passage you're preaching, that is all Hebrew.
We're back in Hebrew.
Yep. Back in our own language.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. But joy is still there. the joy of the Lord had made them joyful. They celebrated 7 days with joy, for the Lord had made them joyful.
Yeah, whenever you see that the joy made them joyful, you get that kind of repetition. Mm-hmm. I think you're always meant to slow down and note that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, joy does make you joyful, but why say it? It's emphatic, isn't it?
Yeah. I once got in a debate with a friend over what joy is exactly.
Oh yeah.
And he was a rather broody, college student Christian. And he was like trying to say that joy is a certain choice of the soul.
Oh, what a miserable description of joy.
I know, it's a miserable description.
The most clenched and dour expression of joy.
I was like, I don't think so. Like, I think it's like a real emotion. Like, there's an emotional aspect of this.
It's like giving you the chemical properties of joy or something.
Well, his point was, I think, that like Paul commands us to rejoice. Yes. Right? And so is he commanding us to feel a certain way? And he said, and kind of the assumption then was like, that's unacceptable. Like, God can't command you to feel a certain way because you can't control your feelings. Like, how could he command you to do something that you can't control at all? But
the same could be said for anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Love.
I actually think that
patience.
Yeah. I mean, I think our God does that all the time. Yeah. He commands us to do things that we can't produce in ourselves.
Yeah. Be faithful. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. So yeah, of course he does command you to be happy, actually.
Yes.
And then he himself provides the happiness. He provides the means to do the impossible.
Yes. Well, that's right. He's never going to tell you to do a thing that he does not equip you to do. Right, that's the case in every kind of ministry you have. Yeah. If you're feeling called to go and do a thing or begin helping with a thing, and you feel unable to do it, ill-equipped, well, that's great. The calling and the equipping go hand in hand.
How's God going to go about it? Yeah,
get on with it. So I think, but there is something. There's something, at least in the text as you read it in English, that does feel a bit spontaneous. Right, they kept the Feast of Unleavened Bread with joy. I mean, the thing about laughter is that you can't make yourself laugh without looking really fake. I mean, like we make ourselves laugh all the time, but that's because we're, or at least you're funny. We're really funny.
Oh, you're so self-deprecating.
But I do think that this is the thing, right? Comedians get in trouble for telling, off, jokes that are a bit off, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the crowd laughed. And that almost gives that's where the comedian's permission to push the envelope comes from. That's consent. But the consent of the crowd through laughter is involuntary.
Yeah.
Right? And they sometimes even feel bad that they laughed at the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So joy, laughter, fun, they bubble up as a response to
bubble up
experiences. That's not manufactured. That wouldn't be joy.
And for them, it was the joy came from a real deliverance. So like they really had the heart of the king had been turned toward them, and they actually got provided for and objectively delivered. Yeah.
There's also a bit of obedience too. I mean, they're doing the right thing in the right way at the right time. And so there is joy, I think, that comes from obedience, and it's maybe in our secular world we don't associate obedience with joy. Obedience feels a bit
drudgery.
But no, here they are. It's the 14th day of the first month. They have the Passover. They have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which sounds very much not like a feast.
Yeah,
it sounds like the opposite of a feast. But they have this cultic festival, and they do it for 7 days with joy because of what they can. It symbolizes who they are. We're back.
The band is back. It's all been, look what God did. He brought us back here. We've got a temple. We're now doing the Passover. Like he delivered us once through the Passover, and look, he's done it again. And this, I just think this is such a high point in the story of the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And as I've been reading this, I can't help but I keep zooming out and thinking about what happens after this over the ensuing 500 years.
Yeah.
And like the zeal doesn't exactly go away. They keep on fighting, and they keep on observing the Torah and the scholar, there's incredible scholarship that comes out. In Alexandria, they have the Septuagint, that is a Greek copy of the Old Testament scriptures, that comes about in the next 500 years. They have a little bit more prophetic books. There's the intertestamental period of kind of waiting. You have Hanukkah, where the Seleucid Empire, Alexander the Great's empire, comes and conquers the people, but then they rise up and kick off the oppression.
Which looks like a messianic moment to them.
Yeah.
That very much.
It's real deliverance.
Yeah.
And yet it continually kind of gets hollowed out. Like the revival fizzles out.
Yes.
Until you get to the time of Jesus. And it's just, it's
you make a profound
Pharisaic.
point. You make a profound point. I don't actually think I've ever heard that point, but take something like the Maccabean revolt under the Seleucid Empire, which is 150 years before Jesus or something. I don't know exactly what the date is of that. But the thing is that there's very little. I mean, I guess you have the modern day Hanukkah festival, but there's very little kind of endurance there. Well, take the Jesus stuff, and we've got 2,000 years of very faithful, expansive celebration of Jesus. It's quite distinct, isn't it, compared to any other kind of revival event in history. I think the resurrection of Jesus Christ is the only revival event in history that has continued to reverberate and grow. All the others have petered out. We've had to have a new one.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
I think I've been thinking too on what revival is for. So what's the point? So a religious revival, it's exciting, but I think we were talking about the Second Great Awakening last week. And,
it's not your favorite of the awakenings, is
it? No, I noticed that you consciously didn't mention any Second Great Awakening for my sake in that. I'm sure there were some good things that happened, but the whole area around the Northeast became known as the burned over district. They just did all this emotionalism and all this enthusiasm was not grounded in God. It wasn't really grounded in his reality.
So you're saying that the first Great Awakening, which precedes that one by 70 years or something.
Yeah.
There's something authentic about it. It's very scripture and gospel driven. This is where we get Whitfield and Edwards and some of those great names.
I guess I would say more than anything that they did, it's that it has the evidence of being a move of God.
The first Great Awakening.
An authentic move of God.
But when we get to the Second Great Awakening,
they wanted an authentic move of God, and so they conjured one up for themselves.
Right.
And they broke it down into its components, and then they just tried to replicate the components, thinking that if they did all the things, then that would be the same as the whole. And
that's such a temptation, isn't it? I think whenever there's been a great move, is you say, well, perhaps it's because we did ... And therefore, if we do these things again, then it will happen again. And so, Simon Ponsonby always makes the joke, he wears a waistcoat because John Wimber wore a waistcoat and he was anointed. But that's he knows what he's doing. He's making a joke, right? But that's how it is. We use this tablecloth. We stood on this, platform. We and if you don't have
these lucky socks,
lucky socks, and now you're in the
you're pagan, full on.
You're in a pagan mindset.
I think.
Okay.
And I think we have to think, well, what's the point? Where are we going with this?
But you're not going to get miserable about the Welsh revival, are you?
No, I have no other critiques of revivalism.
I mean, something positive happened in Wales. I think that in itself is a miracle.
Yeah. And I think there's something positive happening in our culture right now. I think you can look at what happened at Asbury, and I'm dispositionally probably a skeptic on a lot of these things, because I tend to think that the most significant things that God does are often the most subtle things that really last. But I'm not going to poo-poo the hype. But I guess I want to make the point that Passover, it's all driving toward all revival is driving toward the cross. basically.
Yes.
And Jesus, it's not a coincidence. Jesus chose, of all the feasts that he could have chosen to go into Jerusalem, confront the authorities, and ultimately trigger the sequence of events that led to his own crucifixion, he didn't choose a Day of Atonement. He didn't choose the Feast of Booths or Hanukkah. He chose Passover.
Mm-hmm.
This is the deliverance. And so this is like a little foretaste of, it's looking back to delivered out of Egypt, now delivered out of obscurity in Babylon, and then ultimately in Christ at the cross, at Passover, we're delivered out of the grips and clutches of sin and death, and the final problem, the final boss is defeated. And so, like,
I'm glad you say sin and death. I think that's really significant.
Yeah.
Because it's not just if we were just delivered from sin, I guess you would see signs of it in terms of ethical behavior and change and stuff. But the problem is, because we're not yet completely delivered from sin. I mean, we're delivered from the consequences of sin right now in terms of judgment, but we're not delivered from its existence. We still do it. If we just understood Passover, and particularly Christ's Passover on the cross, as a deliverance from sin only, I think probably the Christian religion would have fizzled out, because people would just say, well, hang on a minute, I know a guy and he's horrible. Or if they're going to be really circumspect, I'm horrible.
Yeah.
But when you say sin and death, which I think ties it back to the original Passover so well, as the angel of death literally passes over them, what we can say is the resurrection happened.
Yeah.
And that proves that death died. And therefore we have hope that we too will rise.
And all revival is anticipating the final revival.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Like it's all pointed toward, these are all little, like the thing about, if you think about like in history, the most intense moment of revival in the church that we've seen. Revival is not just a bunch of people getting together in the church and taking their sin more seriously and having spiritual fervor, although that's great. Mm-hmm. Revival is ultimately corpses coming to life and the dead reunited and raised with the Lord in everlasting glory. Like, that's revival.
I mean, you know this stuff, right? In John's Gospel, at the end of John, we talked about it, I think, when we did some teaching on John 2 years ago, when Jesus appears to the disciples and he breathes on them.
Yeah.
And the Greek word is emphusao there.
Emphusao.
Which is that, like emphysema. It's that kind of breathing word.
Emphasize.
In the Septuagint translation of the Old Testament, which you just mentioned, the Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, that word appears just a few times, emphusao. It appears first in the garden when God breathes into the nostrils of Adam and he becomes a living man. Oh, cool. So this mud man becomes animated as a human. And it appears in Ezekiel when he prophesies over the valley of dry bones. God breathes and these skeletons kind of come alive.
Yeah.
So it's a word that is used a few times in the Old Testament to describe what the coming alive of non-alive things.
The taking of organic matter and shaping it into human liveliness.
Yeah.
And
the animation of meat.
Yeah. And that, I mean, we have to tie it into Pentecost, because that,
I do think so.
The reason why the church has not failed, despite tons of failures, tons of corruption and leaders going wrong and scandals and
power over Ethernet ports being blasted by power surges in storms.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah, to bring it in our context. The reason why
contextualize it. Yeah.
The reason why it keeps being fresh is because we are people who are shaped by the have the Holy Spirit, or who the Holy Spirit has. Rather, is maybe a better way of putting it. Like, we're a Spirit-filled
who blows.
Yeah,
a breath. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're animated. The church is animated in a way that I think God's people at this point in history are not experiencing the fullness of yet.
No, it's a prototype, isn't it? It's a preview.
Prototype's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just so much going on here. I honestly don't know how I'm going to ever form this into a sermon.
I mean, just tie it into the garden, the Exodus, exile, and the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is coming again, the falling of the Spirit at Pentecost, and how that links to Ezekiel's valley of dry bones. And
do it in 15 to 20 minutes.
Can I recommend 10 points, Ben?
Yeah. No, I'm going to go for 11. I'll be going for 11 points. Church
by the end of the year,
we'll be having hour-long sermons.
40 points a day.
We'll just be going from we'll
have to speak in binary or something. Have you ever heard like two AIs talk to each other? You know, like when like Giant Eagle's AI calls your AI to tell you that your prescription's ready, and it realizes halfway through the conversation that it's got the same stupid Metal Mickey voice,
and it just starts clicking.
Yeah, click, 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 click.
Yeah, I feel sometimes I worry that our podcast will just evolve like this into more and more obscure jokes that no one picks up on. I don't really worry enough to change anything.
That's what I noticed was that the Giant Eagle pre-recorded your prescription's ready voice is identical to my answering machine voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my answering machine goes, "Hello, we are not here right now." And then he goes, "Hello, this is your Giant Eagle Waterworks Pharmacy."
It's like, hello, wait.
Wait a minute, that's me.
Yeah, that guy. Okay. Well, I don't have anything else to say, do you?
This is how sermons end. Now you know why there's no conclusion.
It's been real. Maybe you were just warming to your theme.
Get him off.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this has been a podcast of Christchurch Fox Chapel. Thank you for stopping by.
Stay classy.
Thanks for listening. See you very soon.